Yeah.
Welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday night. Welcome to the Fantasy Cheatsheet presented by Going for Two Live. Go like, subscribe, comment on the YouTube. Go hit it on Facebook, Twitch, all your social media platforms. Come and enjoy the show. You got us three buffoons over here yelling at each other off air. Come and watch us yell about our opinions on air. Let's get right to the cast and crew because there is a lot of news to talk about before we talk about our running backs. First off, Jordan, what is going on down there in Louisiana, my man?
Not too much, as you know. It's just hot, man. But I'm ready to talk about some RBs.
Hey, you had to take last show off, and when I asked you which show you were willing to miss, and you told me not the running backs, I knew tonight was going to be a good show. And last but not least, we got the myth, the legend from Cleveland. Jamie, what is up, my man?
Well, now that the Scott Fishbowl 13 drafts are pretty much winding down, getting ready for redraft season, and we're here to get those running backs for you to draft.
Yes, we do. But before we get into what we think about running backs, we've got to get into some news. Some of that news includes running backs. Let's just start off with the bad news first in general, and we'll get to the good news right after that. So, first off, injury news. Two big pieces of injury news. One in big piece because of what could happen. Nyheim Hines was injured in a jet ski accident where he was hit by another jet ski and tore his ACL, and I heard another part of his knee. So he is out for the season. Personally, I don't know if this is a big deal just for the Bills and just encapsulated that Nyheim Hines is hurt. I think this is a bigger picture because this opens up a door for one of the veterans to come in my opinion. Maybe not necessarily the veterans, the big ones that we've fought in the past, but this could bring an ancillary piece. Jamie, what do you think?
Well, I feel bad for him just the way he got injured. Shouldn't have happened, could have been avoided. But yeah, I could see one of the veterans stepping in, but he wasn't going to have a big role anyway. They don't really pass to their running backs as much as they should, and he's more of the passing down running back anyway. But I could see like a Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette type going there. But besides that, man, I feel bad for him.
Yep. Jordan, what's your
Yeah,
two
same.
cents?
Unfortunate accident for him. Hopefully he can recover and be on the field next season. But like Jamie said, I think somebody like Kareem Hunt with pass catching chops. Although, I mean, they still have old man Latavius, Damian Harris there to handle the bulk of the carries. And James Cook is a receiving back. He can handle that role. So they may get somebody else just for depth reasons. But I mean, I don't know if they necessarily need them. Nyheim Hines is going to be a punt returner mostly, and get a few catches out of the backfield. But the Bills with that offense, I mean, whoever they do sign, I'm not sure how much of value they'll have if they sign anyone. But yeah, I think I could see him doing it though.
Yeah, I think they'll sign someone. I just think it'll be an ancillary piece. It's just a body.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, we have to bring him up because he's on the roster, but I don't think Latavius Murray is anything anymore. But the reason you have to bring him up is because people do talk like he's there, he's part of the backfield. I think he's actually, if they were to sign someone, say they signed Kareem Hunt, not going to get into a big thing about it, but say they were to sign Kareem Hunt, I think Murray becomes the ancillary piece and not Hunt. That's how I see it. That's how I see it with Murray.
I mean, it's still possible that Dalvin can go there, play with his brother.
We'll get to that.
Ooh.
Well, we'll see. The other thing I want to bring up, this hits home when it comes to injury news. Kadarius Toney comes over from Giants to the Chiefs, does something in the Super Bowl. Everyone's looking at that he could be a breakout candidate. Jordan's over here telling me all offseason, do you think Kadarius Toney could do something? And I'm like, I'm not sure. Well, guess what? We're going to have to wait now, boys, because he just had knee surgery to repair a partially torn meniscus today. He will be out all camp. possibly ready for week one. Those were the exact words of Andy Reid. Possibly week one. I think it's going to be more like week 2 or 3. Overall, I think it'll be fine once it gets into the season, but I wasn't, for fantasy purposes, super high on Tony. Jordan, since you were the highest one in the room, why don't you give us your opinion?
I'm disappointed, man. I really, with the talent that he had, I thought that this was a big chance for him to kind of cement himself. I think he needed this full off-season training camp and everything to kind of make sure he solidified his role. I mean, obviously the talent's there. He's probably the most talented guy they have in the receiving room right now. But this injury sets it back big time. I don't know if he'll be able to kind of hit the ground running in the middle of the season. I don't think he's going to be ready for week one. And I think even if he tried to be, they wouldn't force him back. So they're going to take their time with him because he's constantly injured. So instead of rushing him back, he'll probably miss 1, maybe 2 weeks. And at that point, I mean, who knows? It's not the end of the world, but I think he really needed this time to kind of cement himself. So this kind of pushes him back. The hype has greatly subsided for me. I'd rather have Sky Moore at this point.
Okay. You just made me spit up my drink. Jamie, take it away.
I mean, injuries suck, but our fantasy football teams don't have to. That was the name of the book Dr. Jim wrote. Yep. So I wasn't drafting him anyway. We all knew he was going to get injured sooner or later. It's actually probably better that it happened now, so he has that time to recover, and it's not happening in the middle of the season.
It still can happen in the middle of the season too.
It'll happen again, Jamie.
I mean, he'll come back, play like 3-4 games, get injured again. But he'll probably be pretty good those 3 or 4 games he does play, though. So I always call him the human joystick, and it's always broken.
That's for sure. So now we got some signing news, some big contracts, some little contracts. I'm going to get into one really quick because it shouldn't take a lot of time. Just quick response around the horn real quick. Melvin Gordon signed a 1-year deal with Baltimore. Is this move the needle at all in Baltimore, or is this still the J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards show? Jordan?
Still the J.K. Gus Edwards show. Well, mostly J.K. with Gus chipping in a little bit. Melvin Gordon may make a cameo or two, but that's about it.
Jamie?
I mean, he's been on, 3 different teams the past year. He hasn't really played much. I don't think it's going to move the needle for other people staying away from Dobbins, and it's going to allow me to draft him.
Okay, so this is what I will say real quick. He couldn't even make the field on a Chiefs backfield that had Pacheco, CEH, McKinnon in the playoffs with Ronald Jones. He couldn't even make the backfield. He got a ring for playing 0 plays and 0 snaps. That's all I got to say. Give me J.K. frickin' Dobbins.
Yeah, I can see Justice Hill getting more work than Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I can too. All right, so to start off in the big news, and I'm going to give Jordan the platform on this one only because some of the conversations we've had in the GOAT chat and with GOAT League chat, but also I know how you feel about the holdouts in general. Saquon Barkley signs a deal, 1 year's $11 million. There are some it's like an 8 base, $2 million bonus or salary guarantee. Plus he gets bonuses depending if they make the playoffs, and it has these different thresholds. Jordan, what do you think about the Saquon deal in general and about the whole situation with the Giants? Because I know we'll get to the rest of them later.
I feel for Saquon, man. I mean, he gets a deal. Obviously, it was something I guess he was happy enough about to sign. So he gets that. They put the incentives in, but those incentives are tied to the Giants making the playoffs. I think it's like 1,300 rushing yards he has to get, plus the team has to make the playoffs. I don't see them making the playoffs.
Yeah, so all 3 of his incentives, there's a touchdown, a rushing yards, and a percentage of snaps. But tied to each one, those are all separate, but tied to each one is the playoffs. So
Yeah.
he can do all three of those. They don't make the playoffs. He
You
gets
don't get the
zero incentives.
Exactly. So I think the Giants masterfully crafted that to get that out of it, because I don't think they'll make the playoffs. So Saquon won't get his money. Disappointed in that. I mean, I'm happy that he got a deal done, so now we don't have to worry about him possibly holding out later in the training camp or anything. I was going to draft him anyway because I figured eventually it would have to get worked out. But now that's the like him being held back ADP wise is over with now, so everybody will be back drafting him in the first round.
Jamie?
Yeah, I'm just happy he's signed. He's playing. My fantasy teams are going to be happy. So that's pretty much it.
So I am happy that he's in camp. I am pissed at the contract because of what Jordan said. So if the Giants don't make the playoffs, his salary is $150,000 more than he would have been if he would have signed the franchise tag. That's why I have a problem with it. The whole thing was he was mad about the franchise tag. That's why he was holding out. Now, if they don't make the playoffs, he's still making the exact same. I know 150 is 150K, but for a football player and just for the amount that he should be making, he's making just about the same exact amount of money. And that's why I don't get it. We'll get into more about this situation a little bit later in one of someone's topics. But another big topic this evening when it comes to money, it is on the defensive side of the ball. I'll start with you, Jamie, on this one. Trayvon Diggs, cornerback from the Dallas Cowboys, up-and-coming cornerback, brother of Stephon Diggs. 5 years, $95 million. So now they got Dak solidified. They got Pollard on the franchise contract. They got CeeDee Lamb under contract. Now they get one of their big defensive pieces under the contract. I know this really isn't a fantasy thing, but what do you think this does for the Cowboys, and what do you think about the signing in general?
I like the signing. I mean, he got his money. Definitely a big piece of that defense. The defense is going to be scary good this year. Cowboys, man, I can see them making the playoffs and maybe even winning a game for once in the playoffs with this defense. But yeah, I'm liking it. I think it'll probably help the running game more because they won't have to be throwing the ball as much, because they'll hold the teams the lower scoring.
Yeah, same.
Jordan?
He's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. That he earned the money. I think this helps the defense overall. I mean, everything starts with the pass rush because with him, he'll get an interception or he'll get burnt. So if that line isn't getting pressure, it's going to be hard for anybody to hold up. But him, a guy who takes a lot of gambles, sometimes it doesn't pay off. But I like this for the Cowboys. They're locking up the guys they need to lock up. And like Jamie said, I expect them to make the playoffs. I know the expectations for them are higher than just winning one game. They need to at least make it to an NFC championship. I don't see it happening, but I know with the talent they have, that should be the expectation.
And I agree. To me, if they don't make the playoffs, I don't know what the F is going on. Unless it's a bunch of injuries. If they don't sniff the playoff, they don't make the playoffs, there's something wrong with this team. Could it be Mike McCarthy? We'll see. Could it be Dak? Who knows? We'll see. Could it be Jerry Jones? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Who knows what will happen, but all I'm going to say is it was a good move. I was kind of surprised it came up today, but good on him. Now, speaking of surprises, I'm about to clock out this afternoon, and a coworker calls me and says, "Did you see the news?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Your rival just secured their quarterback." And I'm thinking, the Raiders secured a quarterback? Because I wasn't even thinking what happened. Justin Herbert, people, got an extension, first one of that class, 5 years, $262 million extension, $52.5 million a year. And the way it is structured in the year 2025, a cool $99 million for that single season. I'll go back to you, Jamie. Did Herbert deserve to be the highest paid quarterback? And are the Chargers going about this the right way? Because I have a question I want to throw to Jordan.
I definitely think he deserves it. He is one of those top tier, like top 5 in the league type guys. They wanted to lock him down. Yeah, he had an injury last year, but he still produced even with that injury, and now he's going to be fully healthy. They paid him. Now he's got that like motivation just to prove that he's worth it.
All right, so Jordan, what do you think about Herbert? Because I just realized I want to ask my question to you in a little bit in one of your topics. I think you know where I'm going now. But so, what do you think about Herbert in general?
So I think Herbert is like Jamie said, I was sold on him more before this past season, but the winning hasn't come yet with all the talent that the Chargers have. I expected them to win a little bit more. So I've dropped him down a little bit. He's top 10 quarterback for sure, probably top 7 if I had to kind of make a list. But I mean, that's what you do. You pay you guys. You ain't going to get rid of him. You're not going to find anybody better than him. So definitely lock him up. He'll be the highest paid quarterback until probably who knows, couple of weeks from now, Joe Burrow may get an extension, and then he'll be the highest paid.
Burrow will be next.
Yeah. So it won't be much longer until somebody else takes that throne, but he's definitely worth the money.
All right. So how much it pains me to say, in my biased opinion, but my non-biased opinion, he freaking deserves it. This guy does he still need to prove it? Yes. But the problem with that saying that, he still needs to prove it, I was watching a little bit of the show before us, and Los and Danny were arguing about it because Danny was saying that he shouldn't have gotten the money because what he did in the playoffs last year against the Jaguars because he blew that lead. I get that. But at the same time, the problem with the NFL these days is you have to secure the guy even if he is decent. Perfect example is Daniel frickin' Jones. Daniel Jones was decent and gets $40 million a year because of the fact that even replacing Daniel Jones would have been a mistake for the Giants. Okay? You're seeing it with the Raiders right now. They replaced Derek Carr with Jimmy G, and now everyone's clamoring, going, what the heck is wrong with the Raiders? Okay? So Herbert deserves it. This was a good move on the Chargers. I do believe in Kellen Moore as an OC. I do think he's going to get the team rolling, and I do think they're going to win more this year. We'll get to my other thoughts about this in a little bit. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of the show. We're talking running backs. We're talking teams. We're talking players. We're even talking something that I have no idea what Jamie wants to talk about. I'm still confused. But I think I know, but Jamie and I'm guessing I have a feeling I know what site he got the stats on, but we'll figure that out later. But Jordan, when I was writing this show sheet, I literally messaged both of you and said, there is one player that you have to explain yourself. So explain yourself, son.
So this person was a hot topic in a group chat that me and Mike are in. Joe Mixon. So I I am on the Joe I'm on the Joe Mixon train. I know a lot of people. If I told you guys coming into this draft season that there was a guy who was sixth in the NFL running backs and touches per game, sixth, and he was second in carries inside the 10, and he finished eighth overall, like in points per game among running backs last year. But he was going as RB15. You would be like, oh, what the hell? And on Sleeper, Mixon is currently RB17. So, he started the season slow. I know some of his numbers may be skewed by a 5 touchdown game he had early in the season, but even with that, he was healthy from week 9. He missed a couple of games between week 9 and conference championship, but he averaged 16.7 fantasy points per game. He had 60 receptions last season, with Samaje Perine stealing most of the third down work. We all know Samaje Perine won't be there anymore. They have a bunch of Chris Evans is there, but I mean he's not Samaje Perine. Mixon, we thought he would get cut because he had a contract situation. He restructured that, took less money, wanted to be a part of the team. So he's there, he's all in. The touches will still be there. The offense is one of the best in the league. The opportunities are going to be there. We talk about volume being king all the time. He still gets the volume. Like I mentioned, 16 touches per game, second in carries inside the 10. That's not going to change. He only had 5 touchdowns, even with all those opportunities. He can regress positively with all those opportunities. So it's not far-fetched to see him score 10, 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, further boosting his numbers. I'm in on Mixon at RB15. I mean, where he's going right now, 37th overall. I'd take him probably over Ramondre, considering the uncertainty with, some veteran guys maybe signing there or whatever. Give me Joe Mixon all day in the 3rd round, late 3rd, middle 3rd, whatever. Give me that all day.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I mean, I'm fine with Mixon where he's going around. He's probably more of a 4th round guy, right? I would imagine.
37th overall, so 12 team. That's like the beginning of the
3rd. 4th. So
right.
I'm fine with him there. I do see a good year coming from him, but after this year, I could see a regression coming just because he's 27, so he's going to be around that age in the future where he just starts dropping off, kind of like Dalvin Cook did last year a little bit. His efficiency might not be where it is with his age, but like you said, volume's king. He's going to get those touches, going to get those touchdowns. I wouldn't argue with someone taking him, but there's a few other people that around him I'd rather have. Like, I'd almost rather have Aaron Jones.
No, I can't. I can't have Aaron Jones.
How about J.K. Dobbins going after him? I mean,
all right, so I know our league is 18 teams, okay? So I understand that factor. But I just want to throw a couple things out there for both of you, just for argument's sake.
Okay.
Let me find him first. Okay. There's 18 teams, so I'm not going like 4-0 this. I'm just saying, what running back, yes or no, would you rather have? Jamie, Joe Mixon, or Travis Etienne?
Ooh.
You know why I'm asking, Jordan.
I'll probably take Etienne.
Okay, that's fine. Joe Mixon, Jamie, Joe Mixon or Dameon Pierce?
Oh, give me Mixon all day.
Okay.
Easy.
Yeah.
No. I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever on that one, Jordan. That's not a disagreement, and you'll hear that later. Kenneth Walker or Joe Mixon?
Oh, Walker, 100%.
Okay.
No.
Jahmyr Gibbs or Mixon? This year only.
Give me Mixon.
Sanders.
Ooh, that's right on. No, give me Mixon, man. Definitely Mixon.
Okay, so you're right about with Jordan. The only one that Jordan disagreed with you, Jordan, was Walker. Jordan. So in our league, Jordan took Mixon over Pierce, Walker, Sanders, Gibbs, Dobbins, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think Walker's talent's disappearing just because they added Charbonnet. I mean, he's still going to get the work.
Here's a question, because this was going to get brought up if something didn't happen. So I'm not going to say why, because Jamie knows. Jordan, who would you have wanted if Jamie wasn't a jerk? Would you have taken Joe Mixon or Najee Harris?
Oh, jeez.
Me personally, I would have taken Mixon.
Okay, really? I'll tell you this right now. If he did not take Najee, I was telling both of you I was taking Najee.
That's cool. And for that league particularly, Najee, the volume for Najee will be better. But it's like, give me the guy who was ranked second by PFF graded running back in the whole league last year, on a better offense, getting close to the same amount of work, better opportunities. Give me that guy. That's Mixon.
Okay. So to clear things up between me and Jordan for a second, I am not as low on Mixon as Jordan thought I was in the chat. Okay.
Well, I thought you was like dirt low.
I'm not dirt low on him. I am lower on him than you, and I am lower on him than Brian. I just thought there was better ways to go. But like I said at the end, I'm like, if you want to go Mixon, fine, go ahead. I would not have taken Walker. That would have been close. Like,
Okay.
that would have been close for me. If like we already know the ETN didn't matter because ETN was taken before.
Right. I would have taken ETN, by the way.
I know you would have. I do like Mixon. The talent is there, but to me, that passing game is so heavy that I'm afraid that he could get vultured even more. Like, I'm curious to see how they play it. You know what I mean? And they did bring in Chase Brown from Illinois, so I'm just curious to see what they do with Mixon. I am also curious because not of the incidents going on with him, but the restructure in general. I'm curious what that means. So, from one guy, and this is what I think is hilarious that we're talking about this other guy, from one guy who caused a major riff in our chat, Jamie, Mixon, to another player that caused a major riff in the same exact chat was Alexander Madison. So I am curious where you're going on this because I will not tell you what side either one of us took. So go ahead.
All right. Well, if you follow me on social media, you'll know where I'm going with this. But like, I'm avoiding Madison like week-old sushi. Honestly, not touching him, throwing him away. Like, right now, his current ADP is what, running back 20-ish. And there's just so many running backs that I'd rather have that are going around him. There's like 12 other running backs that go after him that I would rather have over Madison. Now here's why. Because he's not efficient. He has below average workout metrics. He only averages 3.8 yards per game. He doesn't have breakaway run speed. He doesn't evade tackles. He doesn't create yards. 25% of his runs are stuffed at the line of scrimmage. He's not a workhorse running back. He's going to have some kind of a split with Chandler and McBride. There's just no way that he steps in the Cook's role because Cook was getting 75 to 90% of snaps. And at best, I'm thinking he's going to see around 60%, and then the other two split the other 40. But even that, like, they're going to be a pass-heavy offense. He's not really a pass-catching running back. And even in the games he replaced Cook in the past, like, he was only seeing part of Cook's workload. He wasn't seeing Cook's full workload. And just people are overreacting just because Cook left. They're like, oh, well, they like Madison enough to let Cook walk. It's like, no, they let Cook walk to save $9 million. And then the other argument I hear is, well, they re-signed him to a contract. I'm like, well, yeah, they gave him $3.5 million. That's backup running back money. That's what Gus Edwards is making. We talked about Naheem Hines earlier. He's making $1 million less than Naheem Hines. So if they really thought he was a workhorse running back, why didn't they pay him like one? It's just, I don't get it, man. I'm out on him, not touching him at his ADP. Like, if he was being drafted around running back 30, I'd take him every time, but not at running back 20.
Jordan, the floor is yours.
Well, so I think, like Jamie said, I think people are valuing him based off of the small sample size that we've had in the games that Cook missed. Cook surprisingly stayed healthy enough last season to where Madison didn't really get an opportunity. But in 2021, I think Cook missed 4 games. Madison started in those 4, and he looked pretty good. Like, he had performances that you would expect. I mean, he had 100 yards and a couple touchdowns and stuff like that. But it was enough of a taste to get people excited. Obviously, he was one of those handcuffs that everybody ran out to get to make sure they had just in case Dalvin Cook got hurt. Going into this season, man, I'm not exactly sure what to expect because, like you mentioned, he doesn't get the Dalvin Cook workload, so that is already an issue. But I do feel like with that offense, the red zone opportunities will still be there for him. He's going to be the goal line guy. They're going to be at the goal line. The Vikings offense is going to move the ball all the time. Where he's going, looking at it on Fantasy Pros right here, I mean, he's going around guys like Rashad White and Cam Akers and DeAndre Swift is behind him. I would take a chance on Madison. I mean, like Jeff talked about, the volume. I expect him to get enough volume to make it worthwhile. I mean, it's not a heavy investment, 68th overall. Why not take a chance on a guy in a really good offense with a chance to score a double-digit touchdown?
Yeah, but you got to remember, man, like volume is king, but if he's only getting 3.5 yards a carry, he's going to need 20 carries to get you 7 fantasy points.
And if he scores 2 touchdowns, who cares?
So, man, like those are hard to come by. But I want to say also in the previous years when he did replace Cook and he had those good games, 69% of those good games were against Detroit and Seattle, which have bottom run defenses. So he can't play those 2 teams every week.
Right, absolutely. All right, Mike, floor is yours.
All right, so I cannot believe I'm about to say this. Jamie, you are 100% correct, sir.
Yes, that doesn't happen too often, but I'll take it.
Okay. The reason this became a harsh discussion is for 2 rounds, people were trying to draft Madison, and I was shutting it down.
Good job.
Hey, I kept mentioning like Madison.
And then Jeff finally drafts him, and
someone said Madison. I said, "Are you sure?" I didn't even give a name. I said, "Are you sure?" Okay. There are other running backs. Okay, and I'll bring one up because I know we're going to be talking a little bit about this player later. I believe so, but I'm just going to bring up the name, and that's really it right now. Everyone's talk. Part of the problem that I have with Madison, part of the reason with Madison specifically, before I get into the other name real quick, I don't think he's horrible. One of the things I did want to bring up is exactly what you brought up, Jamie, about the money thing that they signed him to this contract. Justin Tucker's only making like $500,000 less than he is. Okay? It's not that big of a deal. The money, it's a contract. They needed a player. Remember, when they signed him to that contract, Chandler was the only running back. McBride wasn't drafted yet. They got Kenneth Nwanu. But they didn't have McBride on the roster yet. I do understand Jordan's point about goal line. My thing is, yes, there were certain games that he looked decent in, but to me, he looked better in the situations just with the naked eye. Not saying in the stats or just when I watched him play, he seemed to do better in the games because there were a lot of games like this, and I'm saying it in a joking way, but I'm not saying it in a joking way because you guys both know how it is with the Vikings. He did better in the games that he replaced Cook when Cook got out of the game. When Cook left in the game in the second quarter because of an injury, or when he fumbled the ball in the first and acted like he had an injury for 3 quarters. Those are the games that Madison did better in, comparably to the games that he was the man. I think he does better as a change of pace guy, not necessarily the dude. I truly do believe that the Minnesota offense is going to be a stone-cold killer offense. You could tell because I drafted 2 of them and we're only 4 rounds into the damn draft. Okay. So having J. Jeff on the team, having Hawkinson, having Cousins on the team, having Addison as a wide receiver, even though he likes to go 140 miles an hour.
It was a dog emergency.
And it was a dog. That's why. Yeah, it was a dog emergency. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, Reverend, freaking, what was it? 3 a.m. I understand the argument that Jeff was trying to make in the chat about volume is king. I personally think that Chandler is going to eat into that volume when it gets later down the road in the season. I don't think it's going to be the Madison show. Okay? And that's why I made the argument for somebody else, Jordan.
That not this guy that wears a red jersey, right?
He has no one there. Well, okay, I won't bring him up yet because I know you'll bring him up later. But there's a player in a red jersey that is a volume king, just like Madison, who has nobody behind him. So we will.
And that guy suffers the same fate as Dalvin Cook in most games, whether it's an injury or we thought he was injured or on an offense that ain't going nowhere.
No,
fast.
But the thing is, that offense, they need him more than they need Madison.
Oh, true. But those opportunities are not going to be there. We're in the high quality touches won't be there because they won't never get in those places.
Well, we can't draft him anyway because he's been drafted. So
yes,
to get to my first player, we're already 36 minutes and we're not even at my first topic yet. Okay, so to dig into my first topic, former Philadelphia Eagle, former Penn State running back, Miles Sanders. He's on the Carolina Panthers. He's new head coach, is the new head coach of the Panthers, Frank Reich. They got Bryce Young. Here's the thing. I love Miles Sanders this year. I think that Miles Sanders is going to have a good year. I do think he's going to get the volume. I think Chuba Hubbard is just bleh. He didn't prove anything last year. I mean, they brought in Deontay Foreman, and Deontay Foreman ran him off the field and freaking made some money in Chicago before they brought in freaking Jamie's love child. Frank Reich, his last 4 years in Indianapolis, full 4 years. I'm not including last year because he got fired halfway through the year and the Colts decided to bring in Jeff Saturday as a head coach, Jim Irsay. In run rate, we're 5th, 6th, 9th, and 5th in run volume compared to pass volume. Or ran the ball 5th, 6th, 9th, and then 5th. I understand for 3 of those years, he had number 28 in the backfield. So I can't discredit that because if I don't bring it up, one of you two is going to bring up that Frank Reich had Jonathan Taylor. So I can't discredit that. I understand that. But that team reminds me of the Indy team in the sense of they don't have the outside pieces. Yes, they got, you got Mingo, you got Thielen, but you don't have any studs. You don't have the line to be studs yet either to protect Bryce Young. Last year, he had 11 touchdowns, Miles Sanders did. Year before, he had 0. The year before that, he had 6. I don't think he's going to have 11 touchdowns. But if you can get the volume that I think he's going to get and get 7 to 9 touchdowns, maybe 10 at the most from Miles Sanders, I would be ecstatic. The other thing that I'm happy for Miles Sanders is his new running backs coach is an absolute stud of a coach. We all saw him last year on Hard Knocks. That is Deuce Staley. I think Deuce Staley is going to do Miles Sanders very well. He's going to teach him stuff. We saw what he did with Jamal Williams. We saw him. I know you watched it, Jordan. We saw him get in DeAndre Swift's face and was like, hey, if you don't want to, pretty much hey, you can't be soft. If you want to be a running back in the NFL, grow up. He will do what he needs to do to get his guys motivated, and I think he knows how to. And I personally think that Miles Sanders is going to have a good year, and I would not doubt if I'd be shocked if he's not a top 20, but I would even push him a little bit higher. Jordan?
He's not Joe Mixon or anything, but, I am excited about Sanders this year. He's worth taking, man. Like you said, all those opportunities. He's a talented running back, first of all, and being the only guy really in that offense. Obviously, the Panthers don't trust Chuba. with the full workload or anything like that. Give Miles the ball, watch him run. Like you mentioned, Deuce Staley. I'm not sure. I know Deuce Staley was in Philadelphia before he went to Detroit. I don't know if he was Miles's coach then or Miles wasn't there yet, but um, I'm sure at this point, having him there, having a young quarterback who can kind of lean on his running back. Miles Sanders can catch the ball as well. Like you mentioned, I don't anticipate 11 touchdowns. The Panthers' offense won't be nearly as prolific as the Eagles one from last year. So if he can get around that 7, 8 touchdown mark, I think he'll be good. And based where he is right now in ADP, he's around Damian Pierce, he's like RB19, RB20 on sleeper. That's good value for him. 44th overall. This is weird the way they have it here, but saying 44th overall, nice slot for him. Slides in between Pierce and Dobbins right there.
Go, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm not avoiding Sanders at all. If I miss out on a Dobbins, Sanders is my next targeted guy. So I do have a lot of them. He's going to see the volume. You may not see as many red zone touches because they might not get into the red zone as much as the Eagles, but he's also not going to have like a Jalen Hurts stealing his red zone carries. So he's going to get those goal line carries and he will get those touchdowns. Plus in the passing game, like that'll make up for it. I think he could definitely outproduce his ADP and be like a great RB2 on a team.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this next topic because I have a feeling we're 41 minutes into this episode, but this topic, and not because of the red jersey, but this topic was interesting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it got a lot more interesting at 5 o'clock my time. Jordan, take it away. Jamie, I want to go first before you because Jordan knows where I'm going with this. Jordan, go.
So, every year, even though we don't think about it, it's typically like the last big hurrah for like certain guys at every position, mostly running backs, because obviously they kind of cycle through faster with the pounding that they take. This year, I'm thinking it could be not necessarily the last season for these three guys, but the last season where they're like top guys or guys that you really want to have or are really useful at different levels of the draft. So those three guys are Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, and they're all for different reasons. Austin Eckler and James Conner. Obviously, for Derrick Henry, the reasons are he's getting older. I've been doubting him for the last 3 years. Obviously, he's proved me wrong every time, but eventually it has to catch up with him. He's going to be 30 in January. We all know the history between running backs when they reach over 28 typically, but I mean, he's kind of defied all those things up to this point. The workload that he's received is going to wear him down eventually. I don't like Tennessee, never have. He's always transcended the terribleness of their offense, but eventually that has to stop. I think this may be the last year that you can really ride Derrick Henry before he kind of starts to dwindle down with the carries and whatnot. Austin Eckler, the only reason why I say that for him is obviously he's getting up there in age as well, but he doesn't have nearly the amount of miles and carries because he was a backup for a long time and he was only like a passing downs guy. So he didn't really start getting like a full starter's workload up until like a couple of years ago. So, but it's just a couple months ago, we were talking about whether Austin Eckler would even be on the team and he requested a trade. He wanted to get paid. They didn't pay him. And then they paid their quarterback a whole Brinks truck worth of money. Obviously, Eckler's going to play this year. We don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know if he's going to still be there. We don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, he wants to get paid. He organized a Zoom call with all the rest of the running backs to make sure that those guys had a plan moving forward to get paid. So we'll see what happens when it's his turn next year. Regardless of what happens, him not being, if it ends up he doesn't stay with the Chargers, wherever he goes, it's going to be a downgrade at that point. So he's going to be probably sharing with somebody else because it seems like every team has like two running backs that are going to split almost. So at that point, he's going to lose that. The passing down role that he had that was so valuable, that'll be gone. It'll be diminished somewhat, and that'll hurt his value. And then the last guy, aka Red Jersey, James Conner was the guy we were talking about. And for obvious reasons, same thing, age and being on a Cardinals team that's gonna suck terribly, and part of that purposefully. It's going to be hard for him to kind of like, I think they'll move forward after this season from him. And then at that point, he'll probably be a second guy on another team. I don't see him getting another starting gig unless somebody else gets hurt eventually, which could happen. But I think this will be his last year as like a full-time, we believe in you starter. And then after that, he'll kind of have to get in where he fits in the whole scheme of things. But yeah, I just think, this may be the last huge seasons for these three guys.
All right. So first off, Derrick Henry, I don't need to say much. I agree with you that this is probably the last hurrah. I do like Derrick Henry this year. I still do.
Yes.
I just think it's going to be the last hurrah. And I will back everybody. I will back you up in saying that you don't like Tennessee because in our chat, you haven't said one good thing about anyone on that roster. In a joking way, in our GOAT chat. Whenever we bring up Tennessee, Jordan's like, I don't know. I'd rather here, I'll give you an insight, Jamie, because they're both gone now. He said he would rather have D-Hop if Mac and Cheese was his quarterback.
Yeah, man, because
I know. I'm just giving you shit. Okay, real quick on the James Conner one. I'm not disagreeing you that this could be the last hurrah. I think that he is going to get run to the ground this year. Volume is king. That's why I think that's why I do like Conner this year for that purpose. I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be in the next 4 years is after this year. The next 4 years after this year is going to be on 4 different teams, and you're only going to need to use him once or twice. He's going to be a waiver wire pickup, but he'll be football relevant, but not fantasy relevant for 4 different teams. Now, the one I really want to get into real quick. The LA Chargers. The signing today. I leave if I said something that dumb in the chat. All right. The Chargers. The signing today, and I think Jordan knows where I'm going with this one. To me, the Chargers have played their full hand of 5 card poker. I do with giving Herbert the money and with the other things they got to do and them needing to structure that defense again because that defense, they keep messing up that defense with the big contracts and everything else. Eckler, in my opinion, is gone after 2023. I don't think he is there next year. I think they made the bed that they have to lay in. I do think it's the correct bed to lay in because I hate to say it, and this is part of the reason they had this freaking Zoom call, Jordan, that you brought up, trying to get money for the running backs or whatever. I think we will all agree that a running back in the NFL is easier to replace than a star QB. And there's nothing wrong with that. People think, oh, poor running backs. I get it, poor running backs. I agree that they should be getting paid. But it's supply and demand. It's what the league puts their importance on. That's the quarterback. So to me, I agree with you on all 3 of them. But Eckler to me is the biggest one that there is a chance that I agree that Conner is gone after this year because they're going to reset the team. I don't think it's unnecessary. I don't think it's necessarily sure. I think he'll drop off, but I think Henry could be on the Titans. Yeah. I don't think there's a chance that Eckler is a Charger. Jamie, take it away.
I agree on all that. Henry's the only one that I could see because he's built differently than other running backs. He has less miles than Conner. I could possibly see next year being his last year just because of the way he's built. But other than that, yeah, if I'm in dynasty leagues, I would get rid of them, all of them. I do like all their values going this year because you can get Eckler almost at the end of first round. Henry, I got in the third round yesterday in a best ball draft, which is crazy. And then Connor's going, what, 7th, 8th round as a full workhorse back. I mean, you can't beat that. But, yeah, definitely this year. I mean, even if Connor gives us 6, 7 games this year, he'll probably get hurt. And then he might not even make a full recovery. It might just retire.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie. I know you've been wanting to talk about this one since draft day.
All right, so this is a messy situation here. So the Bears backfield, you got 2 veteran backs, then you bring in like a rookie that has obvious skills that could easily surpass both of them. So you got Herbert and Foreman, like they should see the early season carries for sure. But like, so all year long, I think last year they had 330 carries between the running backs. So if you split those between Herbert and Foreman, there's not going to be much left for Roschon, right? Except Roschon is the best pass blocking running back in that backfield, and he's going to see this passing down snaps. So you got to figure that in. So I can see them all being fantasy relevant. Injuries do happen. We don't like to see it happen, but if it does, I can see Roschon easily stepping in, taking over the carries, and he's going to show all of us that he's a way better back, and he's like carries are earned. And if it's between Herbert and Roschon's going to definitely, in my opinion, be the better running back. And there, before the NFL draft, there was multiple GMs that were saying that they like Roschon as a number 1 running back. And I think that's why the Bears drafted him for the future. You got Foreman only on a 1-year deal. Then when he's gone, it's going to be Herbert and Roschon next year. And then the year after that, Herbert's gone. Then it's going to be Roschon's backfield. They're probably going to bring in other people, but they're not going to give the backs that they bring in like a 50-50 split. I see Roschon for the future, and that's my take. That's why I'm drafting him in Dynasty. I'm even drafting him late in redraft just in case of that injury, plus the third down passing back role that he's going to have. So I'm taking a flyer on him in redraft, but he is my stamp in Dynasty.
He's your stamp in general. Jordan, take it away.
Yeah, so I've drafted in the drafts that I've done. I've drafted Foreman quite a bit. I've drafted some Roschon, but I, for whatever reason, haven't been able to get Herbert. I think it's going to take some time for Roschon to kind of crack the rotation of backs. Herbert showed when Montgomery was there and when Montgomery was out that he's talented. He can be a starter. Foreman has also showed what he can do as well. So I think it'll be those 2 guys kind of battling it out. Roschon getting a little bit at the beginning. He'll have to, like you said, carries are earned, playing time is earned. He'll have to earn that over the course of time. But I think all of these guys, well, in redraft for sure, Herbert and Foreman are good values where they are. When you can get a starting running back as late as Herbert's going, it's always a good thing. I anticipate. I know DJ Moore's there. I know they still have Mooney. They traded for Chase Claypool last year. The Bears are still going to want to run the ball. So I know Fields runs the ball as well, but just having him there is going to help the running game, obviously. So yeah, I like all these guys really, but I'm trying to get Herbert or Foreman in redraft, but definitely Roschon and Dynasty.
Yeah, usually when I see Herbert go, I start putting Roschon in my queue, draft him like a round and a half, maybe 2 rounds later. Just
so
because.
Are you drafting anybody else but Roschon?
Wait, say that again?
Are you drafting anybody else on that team? Any of the other running backs but Roschon?
I have Herbert in a 1 dynasty league.
That's it?
Other than that, but I drafted him last year. But no, I'm not. It's all Roschon for me, man.
All right. So I have actually chatted a little bit about, not recently in the last couple of days, but a week ago, right, Jamie? I chatted with Jamie about a certain player, Roshan, um, because I was about to be on the clock in a couple charity leagues. My tune on this backfield has changed pretty immensely compared to where I was a couple weeks after the draft. I will have to admit that part of the reason I was the way I was after the end of the draft was to give a certain somebody below us a hard time. But that's just the nature of the beast. We're buddies. We give each other a hard time. But when I get down to brass tacks and I have to do my drafting, I asked Jamie where he has seen Roshan go because I was on the clock in a certain round. He said he saw somebody in the GF2 family. Now, I'm not going to mention anyone's name, but he said that he saw someone draft him in round whatever.
14. I think it was 13.
It was 13. I was in 14. I was in 14. So I was contemplating on Roshan in round 14. When I heard that somebody drafted him in 12 or 13, that made my decision. So I drafted Roshan in 14. What I will say is I think that I am more on Roshan now than I ever have been because I think what's going to end up happening, where you, Jamie, mentioned in your take about Khalil Herbert, him taking over carries for Khalil eventually. I don't think that's the case. I think he's more of a running back in the prototype of Roshan or of Foreman compared to Herbert. And I think he's actually, when midseason gets here, is going to start taking carries away from Foreman, and Herbert's going to end up being. It's going to end up being. Foreman's going to be third on the totem pole, and it's going to be Herbert and Roshan that are going to be the two main guys. I do think Foreman is serviceable in redraft, but in Dynasty, the only two that I would want on my roster, if I'm not a contender whatsoever, would be Roshan and Herbert. I do have Herbert in a couple leagues that I've had him before. I've had people sniff around, but they're still not willing to give me enough for him. I'm not going to sit there and just trade Herbert just to trade him. But overall, I just don't think that the volume is there for either one to be a top guy yet, but they're both serviceable in redraft and in Dynasty. All right, so my next topic. Let me get to the. Oh, this one. I won't go too into it because we're already. Damn it. Okay. I talked about Miles Sanders, the former Eagle. Why don't we just talk about the Eagles' backfield in general, minus the quarterback who's going to get all the backfield goal line carries? We already know that. Okay, so you got Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Penny, and DeAndre Swift. Jamie already knows how I feel about DeAndre Swift. I looked at my roster ship for this show, and my roster ship, I might need to sell a couple pieces of DeAndre Swift. Okay, let's just say I might need to sell a couple, but at the same time, I'm not bringing this up to say that I'm afraid of DeAndre Swift. I'm not. Why I wanted to bring this backfield up is I think they're going to use all of them. But I don't know about you guys, but the more and more I listen to other people's pods, big people, small people, people that Jamie, in the industry, people that hang around with the Profiler crew, maybe not I'm not talking Profiler podcast, but like guys that I know that are with Profiler, like, I'm in a group chat with Anon and like a couple other guys. And then listening to the footballers, everyone knows who they are. To me, keep me away from Rashad Penny, boys. There is just something telling me that glass house is going to break before it's freaking built. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. I'm not saying he's injury prone because I hate saying that because then people are like, well, this person got hurt and you're saying he's not injury prone. I think it's going to be DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny to start the season. But the biggest thing to me is I am not selling completely on Gainwell. I think Gainwell is still going to have a bit in this offense. He's not going to be like a stud. I'm not saying that. But if I had to use him as an injury replacement or a league where I have two flexes and I have to start him 1 week because of injury or bye, give me Gainwell. But I do think that Penny will be serviceable at the beginning, but I just think he won't be able to stay healthy. Jamie?
I 100% agree. Out of all three of those, I find myself drafting Gainwell at his ADP. Not touching Swift. He's going way too early. Penny, like you said, he's made of glass. If he does play 17 games, I think that'll be a steal from where he's going, but I don't think he's going to play 17 games. I think last year, Sanders had 220 carries, something like that last year. Gainwell had 50. Boston Scott had 50. There's going to be a different type of split this year. I can see Swift getting like 45, his normal, what he did in Detroit. He had about 45% of snaps, getting to passing down work. But someone's going to get hurt. Let it be Swift or Penny. Mm-hmm. And Gainwell can easily step in because they used him last year a lot at the end of the season, and they liked him. So that's kind of why it surprised me when they got Penny and Swift on the team. But yeah, I'm taking chances in best balls, redrafts. Give me Gainwell at his ADP.
For sure. Jordan, why don't you just kick it right into your next one? What are some mid-round running backs that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so like man, typically in the past for me, getting running backs anywhere like around the fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, 8 rounds, it was hard. A lot of places, if you listen to certain people, they call it the dead zone for running backs or whatever. And a lot of times it was horrible. Like a couple of years ago, I think Myles Gaskin was one of those running backs, and guys like Mike Davis and people like that. It's like guys who you anticipated getting a lot of volume, but then ended up falling flat. But this year, I mean, running back is kind of spread out so much better. You're getting value. Now, that obviously could change with certain guys. Signing with places, people get injured, things of that nature. But as it currently sits right now, those rounds like fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight, you're getting a lot of value. That's with running backs, like we talked about a little bit. Miles Sanders, there's Damian Pierce, there's Dobbins, Madison, even though Jamie and Mike hate him. But then there's James Conner with all those carries he's gonna get for 2 yards. There's Isaiah, there's Pacheco, Alvin Kamara. Depending on how many games he gets suspended. So there's just so many guys. Like I used to be hesitant. I would normally just hammer wide receiver because the running backs were terrible in these rounds, but now you can kind of change your draft strategy a little bit now, knowing that even deeper in the draft, you're going to still be able to get a lot of value at running back in the middle towards the later end of the draft.
Yeah, a couple of the guys that I'm targeting there, even later than that, is like David Montgomery. Seems like he's being overlooked.
Yep. He's in that range. Yep.
He's a better version of Jamal Williams. And it's same offense, high-powered offense, but also Antonio Gibson is one of my favorites that I seem to be drafting every single draft, and even Jamal Williams. I'll take him even later, and they're going to outproduce their ADP, in my opinion.
Absolutely, it feels like I've never noticed it. Like so many high quality guys going so late at running back. It seems different. Maybe it's always happened like this, but it's feeling different this year.
So is Mike on mute?
Mike, you're on mute.
The only thing I will add real quick, one, Antonio Gibson times 10. Thank you very much. I will take him all day long.
Yes.
Overall on this topic, what you just said, Jordan, you are right. This hasn't happened a lot before. The reason I believe that is everyone with more teams are doing no bell cow, so the running backs aren't being drafted as high. We're seeing more wide receivers drafted in the first round of a league. We're seeing 2 tight ends drafted in some leagues. You're seeing Kelsey and Andrews in some leagues being drafted, even a non-freaking tight end premium in the first round, which is just going to drop those running backs even more. So even if you were to drop a guy from the low second to the top third, that's just going to drop the guy that was at third to the fourth, and so on. Jamie, you have a little bit of a situation that you want to talk about, and I was going to bring one of these guys up, so I can't wait.
All right, so yeah, I was on the clock the other day, and usually, so I was debating between Rashad White and Cam Akers. Now in the past,
Dynasty or redraft?
This is redraft best ball.
Got it. Cool.
And normally I would smash Rashad White, but I sat there and I thought about it. I'm like, well, Cam Akers, he was top 10 running back the last 3 or 4 games last year.
Between week 13 and week 17, he was number 9.
Yeah, so his situation, I mean, both of them don't have competition really to deal with. I can see both getting passing down work, both in really offenses that I'm not really targeting many people in. So they're both going to have opportunity. So I looked at my rankings. I had Rashad White one spot over Cam Akers, and I'm like, well, I'm thinking about switching that just because of the dilemma. So I ended up taking Cam Akers and moved Cam Akers one spot ahead of Rashad White because he is talented. Yeah, he had that Achilles. Is that what his injury was? Achilles. Yeah, ruptured Achilles. Like, you normally don't see running backs coming back from that, but with today's medicine, like, he was a top 10 running back at the end of the year. So why not? So I took a chance on Cam Akers over Rashad White just for that upside.
Yeah, so I it's tough, man, because I feel like they're so close. I think for me, whenever like when I saw this on the thing, I was like, man, that's Rashad White easily. But for me, I didn't even go by the same process that I typically go by when it's a close situation. When it's close, I kind of err towards the guy who may be on a better offense with better weapons surrounding him with more opportunities, and that's Cam Akers in this situation. With Rashad White, Baker's his quarterback. That's enough said. So it's just one of those things where, like, I wouldn't mind having both of these guys, but if I had to choose, initially I said White, but after listening to Jamie and actually just sitting down and thinking about those two, yeah, I would go with Cam Akers as well.
All right. This was not even close to me. As soon as I saw this on the board, I didn't think twice. Bravo, Jamie. This is Cam Akers without a doubt, without even thinking twice to me. Let's bring up the injury real quick. Everyone was, and I agree with you. It is partly how how medical has improved. I know running backs aren't supposed to come back from the Achilles. The problem is, I think they just needed an extra year to come back fully. He's on that extra year. We saw what Foreman did. Not saying that Deontay Foreman is, Cam Akers or anything like that. It took Foreman an extra year or so, and then he came back from his, and he's doing better. And that was before the medical was a little bit better than it is when Cam had his. That offense in LA, I don't think is as good as people think. Reason being is we've been seeing it in the news lately. They were trying to trade Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford said, screw you, I'm not restructuring my deal and all this and all that. I think it's literally Matthew Stafford, Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, and Akers. And that's pretty much it. There's guys, you got ancillary pieces like Van and Puka Nacua. But the problem is it's mainly Cam. I understand that that's also the case down in Tampa with Rashad White. But there's just something telling me I am all in on Cam this year. I'm trying to get Cam. I didn't get him in a couple of leagues that I wanted to. But to me, this is Cam Akers, hands down. So for my next topic, I think this is one of your boys last year, Jamie? Damian? Was that
Damian Pierce?
Yeah.
Right? I was all over him last year. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into Damian Pierce because I think me and Jamie are going to disagree on this one. I'm staying away from him completely. And it has nothing to do with the talent. He was a pure volume hog because they didn't do diddly squat last year. The team sucked. Captain Crunch Davis Mills was their quarterback. Even though I believed in Davis Mills, he didn't do diddly squat. I'd rather have Davis Mills than freaking mac and cheese. But it's
No,
close. I'm not
no,
saying that for
no,
sure, but it's closer than you. It would be a debate.
no, it
Okay,
wouldn't.
we'll
We will
talk
talk
about that
about this
later.
later.
We'll talk about
Later.
another episode. But here's my point. This has nothing to do with Dameon Pierce. This has nothing to do with them drafting CJ Stroud. This is part to do with the team that I put on the cover, Jamie. This is all Shanahan's fault. The reason I'm not sold on Dameon Pierce this year is the same reason I'm not sold on the running backs in Miami. Same reason I'm not sold on the running backs in the Jets. They're all disciples of Shanahan who likes to use 2 and 3 running backs. And I don't trust DeMeco Ryans and his offensive staff to not use Singletary more than they should. I think Singletary is going to be more involved than he needs to be. And this is going to deteriorate the value of Dameon Pierce more than people think.
All right, so you're wrong and right at the same time. You're wrong that I was going to disagree with you, but you're right that I am staying away from Dameon Pierce also this year. I was on him last year. I was drafting him in rookie drafts as my running back 3, but I don't hate players. I hate their ADP. He jumped up way too high now. I'm not touching him. What's up, Kyle? And you're right. Singletaries came in. I can see like a 50-50 split, even a 60-40 split. Bad offense. I know they're taking a step forward, but I'm staying away from them this year in redraft. I haven't drafted them one time in over 100 drafts.
Yeah, I haven't drafted him either. He is way too high for somebody who got more competition for targets. Because competition for touches. He was dealing with Rex Burkhead last year, and now Devin Singletary isn't O.J. Simpson. However, Rex Burkhead is terrible, so Singletary automatically eclipses that. So there's more competition. You have a rookie quarterback. We don't know what to expect. DeMeco Ryans, first-time head coach. He is from the Shanahan tree. Um, it's just so much not to like about. He's very talented. I don't know how much passing down work he's going to receive. So um, I'll let other people draft him where he's going currently. And you guys had the audacity to ask him or Joe Mixon.
I was just going off the draft order. That's all I was doing. I agree with you. I was literally going to he was the next running back after Mixon in our draft.
I know. Whoever did that was disrespectful to Mixon.
So we're running a little bit late. We still got our cheats of the week. I don't want to miss those. But before we do, Jamie, you have a job to do. Today's show is brought to you. Oh, wait, where's that? I thought I put it up. There it is. Today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their industry-leading best ball leagues with huge tournaments, private leagues, and pick'ems for every major sport. Sign up with our promo code GF2 in capital letters and get a deposit match of up to $100. It's as simple as that. Sign up, use promo code GF2, and you can start drafting your best ball teams now. And now that I bring him back up, and if you join one in the next half hour, there's a good chance you're joining with Jamie.
I'm already in 3 of them right now, so I do have 6 spots left in another private draft. If anyone's interested, let me know. I'll send you the link.
All right, so it is the cheat of the week. So it is just extra, our next extra one. Jordan, take it away.
So obviously, we kind of talked about like a lot of guys in the mid round. It's like the value is spread out so much, and you can get good value at almost any point in the draft. I think a lot of that hinges on what happens with some of these guys who still haven't found a team. Dalvin Cook could ruin the value possibly for Ramondre. Not completely crash it, but it could ruin the value for Ramondre, Brees Hall, different guys like that. And if he decides to, wherever he decides to join, if he decides to join his brother in Buffalo, that'll mess up James Cook. That'll mess up Damian Harris. Obviously, Zeke's still out there. Kareem Hunt's out there. Those guys kind of dictate a lot. So there's still a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, we know some guys won't be touched by this, but there are still a lot of guys who can be affected negatively by this moving forward. So we're going to have to wait some more. Obviously, people get hurt. The Naheem Hines injury and other things could happen over the course of the preseason. So we just got to wait and see. But those guys are people that maybe, really, really late in the draft, you take them because they'll end up on a team and possibly provide some decent value.
Yeah. I mean, so some of these guys might not even be signed in the beginning of the year, and they might be valuable later in the year when someone gets hurt. Then team could just pick him up right away, like a Kareem Hunt. If he doesn't get signed, don't worry. I mean, you can still draft him, throw him on the end of your bench. If someone drops him and you have an extra spot, pick him up because eventually he will be used.
Absolutely. I completely agree with Jordan that certain signings will blow someone's value up. I do think that could be part of the problem going on with certain guys. If you have any of the Jets, just like I brought up with Dameon Pierce, they already like to use a couple running backs. You throw a Dalvin or a Zeke or anyone of that ilk into any of those rooms, or Lenny, you're screwed. I wouldn't want anyone in those rooms because they're going to sink. Same with Buffalo. It's already kind of weird, but then if you throw him in with his brother, it's going to drop his brother. It'll definitely injure or hurt Damien's value. It'll, that kind of thing. Who else is there? I mean, you just brought him up, Jamie. The interesting one still to me is I know we've talked about it in the past, and I'm not saying Kareem. I'm not bringing Kareem into it this time. I'm just saying in general. Who's to say that Tampa doesn't bring someone in? I mean, they don't really have anyone besides him and Keyshawn, besides Rashad White and Keyshawn, or is it Keyshawn Vaughn?
Still? Keyshawn Vaughn, yeah.
I mean, so like, you haven't. Chase Edmonds. Yeah, and Chase Edmonds. That's the one I was thinking. Chase, lovely Chase Edmonds. Our Jamie and my favorite player. But yeah, overall on that. Okay, so I know my stats, and I've been playing along with analytics. Jamie, WTF?
Okay, so there's a tool that I used last year. It's called the DOCE score, DOCE score. It's the dump off containment efficiency. What it does is it measures the defense ability to contain pass catching running backs. You can find this at fantasyintervention.com. I mean, everything's statted out. It's color coded. It makes it easy. What you want to do is stay away from the greens because those are the teams that can contain your pass catchers. Obviously, the farther down, the better the running back's going to be. Let's see. I had something else I wanted to say about it. So, yeah, like all the stats, it has the defenses that go against like the targets, the yards, touchdowns, points per games, and like a whole bunch more. So if you were gonna decide if you wanted to play Swift 1 week, and you're wondering why did he only get 3 points? Well, probably play him against a good team that contains the pass catching. Like I use it in DFS a lot more than redraft. So if say CMC is going against one of the bottom teams,
so you want to stay away from green, you said?
Yeah. So like the higher it is that those are the better teams that contain the pass catchers.
So I'm looking at it right now from 21.
So I believe it's 4.7 and below are the teams that you want to target if you're doing a pass catching running back. So like say like CMC was going against one of the teams in the red, I would probably more likely play him in DFS because I'm going to get more points out of him. Like, yeah, you can find it at fantasyintervention.com or just Google DOCE scores. It'll come up.
Looking at Seahawks
McKinnon. If you want to figure out if you're in a redraft and you have McKinnon on your bench, what weeks do you want to play him? Just look at the dose scores, see if he's playing any of those teams. Then you can just slot him in your flex spot. He doesn't have last year's data in yet. I just talked to him today. He's going to be putting that in soon. He's coming up with fixing the formula, and he'll enter all that in for the next season.
One thing, looking at this, that's clear: the Seahawks really suck at containing pass catcher run backs. They were the worst in 2020, the worst in 2021. So
that's probably why Alexander Madison got a lot of points because he played him like 4 times. But yeah, I just wanted to bring it up, something to keep an eye on, and especially use it for DFS if you play DFS.
Oh, no, completely. I completely get what you guys are saying on that. All right, so we ran a little bit over. I think we had a good show. Jamie, why don't you start off on the sign-offs?
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter, Jamie Perogue. I'm starting to get more followers now. Fantasy Receipts started following me, but joke's on him because I don't put takes on Twitter. They're all on Facebook. But you can find me on Facebook, Jamie Perogue. I'm always in the fantasy discussion chats. And here, going for 2.
JArsenal89 on Twitter. Catch me here on Tuesday nights. I think closer to the season, I'm going to probably start doing a little bit more writing for Going for 2. So you're getting some weekly content up. I got to holler at Jeff about that. But yeah, catch me here with the guys.
Yeah, you know where to find me on the little blue Twitter machine or X or whatever it's going to be in a week. You know, who knows what Elon calls it in a week and a half. But you can find me, Drop the Mic FF on there. You can find me here on Tuesday nights with the guys. You can find some of my stuff over on Dynasty Nerds. I am figuring out what I am writing about next as we speak. Other than that, for Jamie, for Jordan, I am Mike. See you guys later, and peace out.